So I think some of y'all talked about living on campus. I think at an HBCU that was kind of like default. So I definitely stayed on campus all 4 years of college. My brother went to college and did not live on campus, and I knew instantly that there was a disparity in the retention rate. And now working in college and in higher ed, I know that there's a disparity in terms of how students are retained when they live on campus versus when they don't, especially their freshman and sophomore year. But I lived on campus and I enjoyed it because, my mom didn't want me to work while I was in college, even though she didn't necessarily have the money to pay for me to not work, but she was intentional about your job is to go to school. And so I didn't work, so I lived on campus, and it was cool.
That's interesting because I lived on campus for 1 year, and after that I moved off. And I think that's also regionally and location specific, given the university, given the town, and things like that.
Right,
because,
college town, right?
Right, because where I went to school, there was an abundance of off-campus living that were geared towards students and whatnot. So,
like you'll have an apartment with 4 different leases, right? Like if you got 4 people living in an apartment,
y'all
all have your own lease.
Yeah. And so it was still like, I don't think living on campus had a major impact nor negative, positive or negative experience impact on myself. But I do see in the different areas and regions and locations where that is a major factor in student success and retention.
Yeah, I lived on campus all 4 years. I lived with my friends freshman year. That didn't work out. So when people say don't live with your friends, don't live with your friends. We didn't talk all sophomore year. It was just bad. And then after that, I was like, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to live by myself. And then I was like, Fairfax, nobody's paying rent here, so what I'm going to do? So I became an RA. Got that free house, and we had to work for that. Got that house and take care of, so I did that for my last 2 years on campus, and I think part of it definitely impacted my undergrad career as far as like leadership and me being able to have a voice. I met Tammy, met a lot of wonderful people who pushed me a whole lot because I felt like I was a little bit of a hermit, and I wanted to do things a lot of bit of a hermit, mind you. So yeah, I think that getting a leadership role and then working with adults who were intentional about putting me in places that they saw that could lead me to better things, and things that I was passionate about. I never thought that I would be an HRA, even though we did stuff, but I never thought that would be me. But so to have someone like believe in me and believe in my leadership abilities and everything that could happen thereafter was great for me to stay here at Mason.
My first year here at Mason, I actually rented a room out in a house from a lady that lived out in Burke. This was an experience. This woman smoked in the house. Nice woman. She smoked in the house. She smoked in the house a lot. And then what really got me the most is I had to help her with the computer. She would forget her passwords to Facebook and the numerous dating websites that she was on. Okay. The woman was probably about in her 60s. She would forget her password. I don't tell y'all how the number of times I was on the phone with these websites because she forgot her password, and me talking to the person on the other line trying to that's her email address. That's the correct address. Just trying to help her remember, I'll come upstairs sometimes. She's like, you remember the password? Yeah, girl, sis. So just that first year was an experience. And then after that, in that, all that jumbleness, I applied to be an RA. I was, waitlisted? I was waitlisted. And then, over the summer, I'm making plans. I guess I'm getting my work hours. I'm working at Giant. I was like, how I'm going to balance work and going to school. I was figuring all that out. Then I got the email. And it was like, you're an RA. And I was like, yes. Praise. Free housing on campus. And that's when, and I was RA for my last 2 years here. And that's when, everything changed. I was more involved on campus. More people knew who I was. The the credit, like you said, the adults, like my RDs, Tammy, Kristen, Shada, Jordan, just like they believed in me and lifted me up when I needed it, and I was just like, just having their presence there, it was just like, yes, even Jordan. Even Jordan. When they were there when you needed them the most, they were there. So just to have them there here on campus, they were my community, and I loved it.
I think living on for me was a really big experience. I mean, first off, Michelle, Dr. Allen, you reminded me of this when you said you showed up on campus for orientation, is being that I didn't know orientation happened. I missed orientation. I ain't never make it to orientation. I didn't know there was an orientation. Nobody told me to come on to campus. I moved onto campus on move-in day, and we was late.
And we talked about this, but are you considered first gen?
How
would you know that?
I consider myself first generation, although some people, my older sister did graduate with her bachelor's and her master's first. But I would consider us a part of the same generation. And that's why I would consider myself first gen. Now, there are some definitions that would say I am not first generation, but I do say that. But to move on campus and living on campus, it was an interesting time. When you show up on campus, you ain't got no ID. You don't got, I didn't know where I was living. I didn't have nothing. I had no classes. I had no meal plans. It was rough. Because in order to get those things, you should have come to orientation. How did no one realize somebody missed orientation? So, I showed up and that was the first part. And then 2 weeks later, my RA got fired, and so 2 weeks later, I was like, well, and then within that same, time frame, I also lost a friend within that 2 weeks. I went back to New York, came back, RA was gone, and that was it for the rest of the half of the year. So there was no first year living experience for me. And that was hard, being that I was obviously running away from New York and running away from everyone that I knew, and now I'm in a space that's completely by myself. Even if I live in a residence hall, if they offer single rooms, don't live in it, because I became Imani like a hermit. I was right in my room all the time. I lived in a single by myself, no RA, so no one I never interacted with anyone for a full year by myself.
So being a transfer student into Howard University, they tend to put all the transfer students, all the exchange students, all in one building at the time when I went to Howard. And it was off campus. So you had to take a shuttle on campus, or you had to walk. So now you put all these people that don't know nothing about Howard, don't know nothing about nothing, in one building. But since transferring in, I commuted back and forth from when I was home. When I was in community college, I transferred. So that experience was very different too. Being in college, going and living home and working, and then now going away and being on campus, when I was just like, oh, my family literally dropped me off, and they were like, all right. I never went to orientation. I know nothing about orientation. I didn't know nothing about an ID. I didn't know nothing about meal plan. I didn't know anything. And they're like, well, you're a transfer student. You already been in college. You don't need all this other extra stuff. And it was a single room. The whole dorm was all single. So we are here we all look like zombies walking around. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. But the good thing about that was we all left our doors open. And so we left our doors open, and you would walk around like, hey girl, you got a meal plan? You got a pot or something? And so we would communicate with each other that way. And for my time at Howard, I lived in that same dorm, because when you wanted to be by yourself, you were able to close the door and be by yourself, even though that's not always good for freshmen or, your first year in college, like knowing nothing, to have your single room. But as a 21-year-old moving into being away at college, I'm old enough to know, I don't need the nonsense. I don't need the foolishness. No, weekends don't start on Thursday. I got a class in the morning. It was that balance that took place. So my experience living on campus was very different, because I was older. And then I also had my work experience at home, so I knew how to balance work, personal life, and all those other kind of things.